back, Mr. Zambon. We're back, Mr. Williams.
Well, actually, Judge, we never left you because you forgot to mute yourself.
Oh, so you got to hear what I was doing. Well, it's a big case tomorrow with 3 kids on a CSC, and I didn't want to adjourn it. And we had it scheduled, and I couldn't talk to the attorneys any other time until they could call in, and they just got the message they're on, so that's why.
No
All right,
problem.
Mr. Williams, thanks, and I'm sorry for the inconvenience of having to wait. We're moving right into the penalty phase. I had touched upon a little bit the fact that with the information that Mr. Zambon gave the court, you're making a lot of progress, that you've maintained your sobriety, that you're really working the program, if you will. You're going to AA, you're doing what you need to do, both pre-COVID and post-COVID, or in the middle of COVID. You're doing your attendance by internet and everything else, and that's all good. If you think about this case, and I mentioned it earlier too, if the police had not intervened, how do we know that you wouldn't have driven off the road 2 hours later, an hour later, and killed somebody or killed yourself? In a split second, that's what we're dealing with. Those fatals are the absolute worst. In your case, was ripe for a fatal. That's my thought. With a blood alcohol level of 0.269, which is almost, it's over 3 times the legal limit, but you're such a veteran, seasoned drinker that you're physically putting the key in the ignition, driving a car when you're a 0.269. You know what I mean?
Yes,
It's a scary thought, and I'm sure you've been through a lot of thinking about this. How many kids do you and your wife have?
I have 5 stepchildren, Your Honor.
Yeah, so just think of them, because it'd be difficult for everybody if anything happened. You know what I mean? It's already difficult, but it would be extremely difficult if the situation was worse. All right, Mr. Zambon, what would you like to say?
I think you pretty much covered everything, Judge. I thank you for taking time to read my letter and so thoroughly go over Joe's AA attendance slips. The only thing I would add is that Joe's wife is here today, and I think she would agree with everything you said. Plus, she looks at this as Joe, as a positive thing because he's no longer drinking. So, not glad that it happened, but
No.
the result turned out like it did.
I have a lot of people that say that. And you're at your office right now, right, Mr. Zambon?
That's correct, Your Honor.
And that's Carrie, that his wife is with him now during this? Yeah.
She is, Your Honor, yes.
Sure. Okay, I'm sure. I mean, when I think about what she's going through, and she's not even the defendant, and it's not the first time you've been through the court system. So obviously, Mr. Williams, every time you make a choice, you make a decision, it affects all the kids, it affects her, it affects your family. I mean, that's the simple truth of it. Okay, tell me your thoughts at all, Mr. Williams. Anything you want to say?
Mr. Zambon made a statement that it was good that it happened, but I guess I don't know how to put that. I'm glad that it happened so that I can get the help that I need. I feel confident that I can be successful in conquering my problem. I'm thankful that nothing did happen because I know how easily that could have been a different outcome. I'm grateful that I have the opportunity to sit here today with my wife and improve. I'm embarrassed beyond belief, just embarrassed of myself and my behavior. And I thank my family for sticking behind me, and I thank you for the opportunity to improve myself and continue on after this.
Are you still with the school?
I am, Your Honor.
Do they know that you got arrested?
They are, yes. I told my superintendent, my principal, and the Board of Education, Your Honor.
And when you look back on the case that was 20 years ago, was there any kind of accident with that arrest?
There was, Your Honor.
Were you physically hurt?
No, Your Honor.
Was anybody?
Not that I recall, Your Honor, no.
I'm not familiar with Tri-County High School, but have you known any kids throughout the years you've been there that have been killed in a car accident?
There have been, Your Honor, yes.
Some alcohol related, some not alcohol related at all, correct?
I would imagine, yes.
And you've been there for 22 years?
That is correct.
So basically, they saw you, they knew about your arrest 20 years ago,
Students
or
now,
not? Yeah.
Your Honor, I do not know. I would doubt that students now.
Different school? Okay, I was thinking it was the same one. Well, here's my point. And I think through high school groups, where we can hear about kids getting killed in a car accident for all sorts of reasons, not just alcohol or drugs. Sometimes it's just inattention and not being alert, and sometimes it's not their fault at all and they're a victim in a car accident and they're killed. You could portray any type of example, but it is overwhelming. Like if some kid in the high school is killed in a car accident, they bring therapists into the whole high school to talk to everybody that knew that kid or anybody that might be struggling with the grief, knowing that their friend Joey in math class was killed last night in a car accident. You're in a situation where you are the role model, and the kids look up to you, particularly from your coaching experience. I was a high school and college athlete. I played at Michigan, and I can remember how, we thought about, well, it was so different 45 years ago, but anyways, I was just going to say, we thought a lot about, the coaches and the examples they set. I mean, you had to really, really respect your coach to take all the direction and all the guidance. Obviously, you have an alcohol issue, an addiction to alcohol that has caused havoc in your life. That doesn't make you drive a car. There's no real correlation between a person who has a drinking problem and driving a car. And if you go and talk to your fellow colleagues at the AA meetings, there are going to be plenty of people at those AA meetings that never have been arrested their whole life. They've never been arrested for drunk driving because they simply choose not to drive if they've been drinking. It's not because they don't have an alcohol problem. It's because they chose not to drive. They've never been arrested. They still have a problem, and they still want to go to AA, and they still want to work on it, and they still want to fight for their sobriety. But they've never been arrested for drunk driving because they weren't behind the wheel of the car. I'm not doubting that the alcohol level affects your decision making. And like I said before, you have kind of a higher level of you're the word I'm trying to think of, I can't think of right this second, but like you're more, what's that? Yeah, tolerance, thanks. This is what happens when you're, and I'm not quite as old as Mr. Zambon, so I better watch myself, but when you have a tolerance level, it's affected by everything that's going on, and your brain is telling you you're okay. I'll rest a bit. I'm okay. I'll get going or whatever, and you're driving the car. And all you have to do, and I asked you about it because you're a high school teacher, administrator, principal, coach. I mean, you see it over the years you've been at high schools. You've seen what tragedies can happen, whether it's the kid's fault or not the kid's fault. It's still a tragedy. And honestly, if you would be killed, it'd be a tragedy for everybody at that school and the school you were at before, separate and apart from your family as well, of course. But you need to put every ounce of energy into your rehabilitation, Mr. Williams. It's one thing talking the talk. It's another thing walking the walk. And I get that you're saying you're glad this happened so it got you back on the right track. But really, it didn't need to have to happen in order for you to see squarely in a mirror who you are, who you are becoming, what's going on. Because this happened 20 years ago too. And now we're back. And it doesn't mean that in that 20-year span, you never drove intoxicated. It just means you never got arrested. I bet you did drive intoxicated over those 20 years. On occasion, I'm not saying every day, every week. I'm just saying you know yourself better than anybody. And Carrie, your wife, knows you well. Be honest with yourselves. Because if you sit down and look at yourself in the mirror, Mr. Williams, you got to face the music right now and get yourself on track for the sake of your family, for the sake of the kids that you're trying to be a role model for at school, for the sake of everybody. And in all due respect, we don't want anyone hurt or killed. We don't want the drunk driver hurt. No, of course we don't want anyone hurt or killed. And yet, even while I'm talking, there have been fatal car accidents that have happened in the world, in Michigan, in the U.S. Yeah, that's how frequent they are, whether it's alcohol related or not. We know that alcohol and drugs increase it tremendously, the chance of something bad happening. So I get the concept of we're glad that this happened, you faced it, you're dealing with it, move forward. It's not a time tell kind of a, situation. This is, you have to work on this the rest of your life. I'm ordering you to not have any alcohol. Of course, that goes without saying. No illegal drugs, no misuse of prescription medication, no marijuana, testing as required, no jail time. It's a 93-day suspended jail sentence. I don't give you jail, but I do put you on probation for 1 year, and you have to do 12 days of community service, something different than you normally would be doing. Like if you're part of some kind of a charity group, we still have you do community service to be beneficial. $730 fine, $360 is the probation fee at $30 a month times 12. $75 crime victims' right fee, $175 is the Kent County Sheriff's Department arrest and processing fee. I never heard anything about damage to the pole at Myers. I'm assuming we would have heard if there was. So whatever damage was to your car, you got to deal with that separately with you and your insurance company. I do place you on probation, as I said, for 1 year, even though this goes back to July, because we want to make sure that you don't have any more connections with the criminal justice system. Certainly not as a defendant. Can you think of any questions you have for me?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
The Secretary of State will be talking to you about your license suspension. There's $1,340 that's owed on this, and you can make a payment plan. You'll be contacted by our probation department. Most all your contact is going to be virtually, remotely, email, telephone, that kind of contact. Is the Pearson, Michigan, West County Line Road still good?
Yes, it is.
So let's just say, keep doing what you're doing in a positive way to stay beneficial to everybody around you, so you can get yourself healthy in mind, body, and spirit. Okay?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, that's it. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Zambon. Thanks for waiting for me as well.
Thank you.
Did you think that Doug Battle was going to show, or can we put that on the record? On file D18-01034SM, it's Douglas Battle. It was set at 1:30. He owes $300. Defendant failed to appear. So let's see if there's a bench warrant and just make it $500 cash.
Okay, Judge.
Mr. Hanel, are you here for the Michigan Indigent Defense?
I am, Your Honor.
Super. We're going to get started as soon as we hook in with the jail. Ms. Alice, can you hear me?
We're just waiting on jail.
Oh,
They haven't moved in yet. They're reviewing their revised rights right now. Do you want to go offline or just wait a minute?
just go off.